Welcome to the Mad Love Your Life show. I'm Mary D, the Joy Catalyst, here to be your host and transformation guide. Mad Love is about the mad, making a difference, and love is what we serve up to live a delicious life. My intention is to help you spark new ideas, break limiting beliefs, and align with your deepest dreams and desires. Get ready for laughter, inspiration, and finding your inner roar in every show. All right, y'all. When I talk about money and I say the word money, what comes up for you? When you hear things like finances and income and bills and investing, what are the feelings that show up in your body? When we're talking about money, oftentimes people have a feeling attached to money. And today's guest is a phenomenal expert in business finances. And we are going to break some money and finance stuff down for you today and get to the heart of the matter. So with that, I want to introduce my very special guest, Michelle Cooper. And as I said, she is not just an expert in business finances. She is a pioneer in the realm of financial empowerment. And she's got over 20 years of experience in strategic business growth, taxes, financial strategy, and analysis. And she excels at navigating high pressure, dynamic environments. Her unique approach goes beyond mere number crunching, and she's able to blend the practical, the spiritual, and energetic aspects of money, thereby ensuring businesses don't just survive, but thrive with clarity and purpose. As the founder of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping, Michelle has also spent over a decade transforming the financial trajectories of numerous businesses. Her philosophy is that financial understanding shouldn't be daunting, but rather it should be empowering for entrepreneurs. And this belief shines through in her popular podcast, Rich Life Revolution, where she explores diverse financial topics, offering practical advice and delving into the deeper, often unspoken aspects of money. Michelle's commitment to guiding women to live their richest lives extends beyond her business. And through her podcast, she addresses the critical connection between financial health and overall well-being, becoming a source of inspiration for many. Michelle's role as a speaker and a thought leader in the financial world is underpinned by her ability to empathize and connect with her audience, whether it's large gatherings or intimate settings. And her insights are always grounded in empathy, honesty, and a deep understanding of the financial challenges and victories entrepreneurs face. She's more than a financial strategist. She is a catalyst for transformative financial understanding and freedom. She inspires entrepreneurs to embrace their financial journey, overcome fears, and confidently step into a future marked by abundance and empowerment. And I don't know about y'all, but abundance and empowerment are my mantra. Without further ado, I want to introduce you, my friend Michelle, CEO and founder of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping. Michelle, how are you today?
I am great. I am great. What an amazing introduction. I'm like, who is that person? I want to hang out with her.
It's 100%. It's 100% you and more. You know, there's only so much time we have, so we've got to give you like at least a proper, intro, and then from there we get to deep dive with you and really get into the heart of the matter, as we said in the intro. And I'm so excited about having you here on today to talk about this because, money is a big one. I always say it doesn't matter if you have a little bit of it or a lot of it. It's typically on your mind, right? Only because we're in a society that functions with that as the exchange value for most things. I can't call my mortgage company and say I'm going to pay you in hugs this month. They're just not going to accept that, right? I've got to write a
Yeah.
check. I've got to send some digits over. So, what is it that you know now about finances that you wish you had known before you ever got started?
Oh my God. There's so much to this. It's such a big question. But I think the number one thing that I wish I knew is that money and the financial like success or what I might consider failure of my business or even my personal life actually doesn't mean anything about me.
Mm, That's good. That's good. I think
right?
yes, so many people definitely put their personal value on their ability to achieve or make money. I see this in a lot of young people. I see it, I've got nieces and nephews who are coming up in the world and they're like, well, I'm not where you were in my 20s, Aunt Mary. And I'm like, oh, honey, like that's not the standard. That's not the standard you need to keep. Like, we're all on a
Mhm.
different path. We all learn differently. We all have different experiences. And I think that that's a really important one to let sink in for folks, that doesn't have to be your identity. But I think
Yeah,
oftentimes we slap that label on ourselves somewhere and it's a lot of pressure. It's so much
it is.
pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. And, we live in a world where there's a lot of pressure just everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And, it's like you open up Instagram or whatever, and it's like getting on a private jet and sitting on a private yacht and,
Yeah.
having this gigantic house or, whatever it is, right? And um, I was guilty of that, right? Like, not so much in my younger years. I was, kind of fly by the seat of my pants kind of gal. But as I got into business, whether my business made money or not, I attached a meaning about my identity, like my self worth.
Mm.
If I was it kind of determined if I was successful or not, or I was good at what I was doing or not. And there's a lot that goes into money. Like, we have such an emotional connection to it, so many of us. And I just wish I knew that it didn't mean anything. It's just money. Money is a tool. I see money as a tool now, right?
Mhm.
It's a tool to do the things I want to do. It's a tool to have the impact that I want to have. And when you can shift your lens or your perspective on that, then suddenly it can release some of the pressure, and you start doing things that you want to do. And when you're doing things that you want to do, you actually can become super successful because you're motivated to do the things you want to do, right? So it was a big thing for me to learn. And it's one of the things I tell people all the time. It doesn't mean anything about you. If you've got a bit, and I see this all the time, you got a business and you're struggling in your cash flow, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that it could be an easy fix. Your money going out is going out differently to how it's coming in, or in different amounts, right? That could just be math,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely, and think about someone who's, in a place where if they got, sick tomorrow and they're thinking about their life and they're thinking about all the things, I don't believe that money makes the top of that list. It's family, it's friends, it's who's going to be there for me, it's who can I take care of at the last, bit of this if I'm going to be, terminally ill, if that was the situation. And we lose such sight of that sometimes because I think you're right. There's a lot of marketing. There's a lot around, influencers are kind of the big trend these days. And it's really
Mhm.
fascinating to watch. I remember seeing a commercial the other day for a private jet service, and they offer a membership, and it's just $1,000 a year, and that gets you at least one flight, that you can put yourself on sort of a waiting list. And so the way they advertised it, though, was not that it's just luxury travel, but they were like, hey, if you're an influencer and you want to get the pictures coming on and the pictures coming off, you can bring your camera people. And I just had to laugh, and I was like, oh, got it. I was like, it's so strange to me that like this is the marketing that's actually working. Like they nailed it. I bet you they had so many signups because people are like, $1,000 for me to get my photo on this private jet and just reuse that over and over again in my social media. Ooh, how fun. And
Yeah,
the unfortunate part of that is it is not the real actual lens of life and what is happening. And so I think that that also means then now you're living a bit of a lie, right? And so
yeah,
now you've got to keep up with that, and that's a lot of pressure, especially if the lie is that you have huge amounts of money and you're flying around in a private jet. And so it's just an interesting thing to kind of sit with that a little bit and go, okay, look, is it nice to fly a private jet? I've done it before. It's amazing. Like, it's the best because you don't have to worry about the whole, like, the stuff with bags and airports is like out the window. And is it tied into like ego, identity, all of those things too. And I think that that's also an important just reflection to have. Like, yes, go have nice things, but also if you don't have nice things and it makes you feel like you're nothing, then we have to really relook at why we want nice things and what that's about. Yeah, totally.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like, I'll tell you a quick story. Early in my, like, creating my business, right? I've invested a lot of time and money and energy into going to live events and learning. I wanted to learn everything I could because I came from a corporate background. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. And so I got kind of, pulled into all of the going to this event and that event and learning and all this stuff. And it was great. Spent a lot of time in airports, the cheapest seat on the plane, all the things, right? Like, can I get there on points? Like, didn't have a lot of money back then. And I used to always see ladies walking through the airport with their head held high, with their Louis Vuitton handbag. And they would be strolling through the air. And I used to think, I want to be that lady. Like, here I am with all my stuff and I look all disheveled and stuff. I'm sweating because I'm all hot, right? And when my business hit seven figures, that was my thing. I was like, I'm going to buy that Louis Vuitton bag. I want that bag, right? It meant something to me, right? Like,
Mm.
I just imagined that when I got that bag and I was walking through the airport, I was going to embody that energy that I saw these amazing women have, right? Absolutely, for sure. I got the bag. I held my head a little bit higher. I was like, oh, this feels so great. But nothing changed in my
Mm.
world, right? And it was a great lesson because I get a lot of clients coming to me saying, I want to hit the seven figures. I want to hit the multi seven figures or the eight figures or whatever. And it's hard for people to understand that nothing actually changes when you do that, but
Mm.
it doesn't. Like, it's not like you open a door and everywhere you go, the red carpet is rolled out in front of you all of a sudden, right?
Right, right.
And sure, I had the bag. I love the bag. I just love it. But it didn't change anything about me. I had to learn to love myself and feel confident in myself, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't the bag.
right.
And so it was such an important lesson for me. And it helps me in understanding when people are coming to me and saying, I want this thing, I want this amount of money. Um, and I'm like, that's great. We can totally do that. Like, let's do it. And we also got to look at why. Like, what's the meaning you're attaching to that? Everything's
Yeah,
going to be easy. Everything's going to be, I don't know, sunshine and roses. Because it's not really going to change anything. You're still going to be
mm,
the same person, right?
right.
Unless you do some work on yourself.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think it's such a good message for people to hear. Like, oftentimes, I can't not tell you how many times I hear people say, well, if I just had more money, I'll be happier. If I just had more money, I'll be this. And what I would say to that is there's so much inner work we can do on joy and happiness that don't have to be attached to the achievement of a thing. And that, to me, is the ultimate, like, success hack. Because how
Totally.
do you, right? I mean, if a world apocalypse showed up and money didn't mean anything anymore, let's pretend it was a full barter system, or it was a scrounge, whatever you can, like, it would
Totally.
so instantly change things. I think about Burning Man, like, philosophy around how it's a giving community and there's really no money exchange for anything in that environment. And what's really beautiful about it is you really start to savor the things that are important. I remember the first day of the build, pulling a peach, an ice cold peach out of my ice chest and taking a bite and thinking, this is the best thing ever, because it was such a hot day. We were sweaty. We'd been in the sun trying to get up our shade, and there's dust everywhere, and it's just hot, and there's no air conditioning for us to walk into anywhere. There's just none of those things existed in that environment. And to great take out that peach and just bite that juicy cold peach was such joy that I actually was like, hey, I just started passing it around, because I'm like, we should all experience the extreme joy we're getting from a simple cold peach right now, which, if I walk into my fridge right now, I can pull out a cold peach and I can tell you that it does not give me the same sensation as it did that day on the playa after being
Right?
in that heat. And so it's such a perspective shift of like, what brings you joy? Can you look around and find those things that exist for you that are going to really fuel you on the inside, regardless of what's happening on the outside, and regardless of how much money may or may not be in a bank account. And I know one thing I see amongst new entrepreneurs is they go, oh, I got to get to this dollar amount, like you said. They get to that dollar amount, they go buy the car, the house, the thing, and then they have no money again. And they
Mhm.
realize, oh, I thought this was going to feel differently. Like, I've heard people say, I thought this would feel differently. And so if you are coaching one of those entrepreneurs who are in that mode, what is another piece of advice that you can give them to get them to maybe start to shift or understand that that's not it.
Yeah, it definitely, it's like to think about, um, whatever the goal is, right? Whether it's dollars in the bank, or it's the car, or like me, it was the bag, um, the house, whatever. Whatever that goal is, what is the feeling that you're looking to feel? Like, what do you think that's going to make, how do you think that's going to make you feel? And can you feel that way now, regardless of what's going on, right? Because you probably can, right? Um, I could have felt confident, right? It didn't actually take this Louis Vuitton bag to make me feel confident. I could have, held my head up a little higher and walked a little more confident, right? At the time, wasn't super confident in my world because I was learning so much, and that's okay, right? But like, how can we feel the feeling now, regardless of what the external situation is, right? Because the feelings, they don't come from the external, right? Like, it doesn't come from achieving a goal, right? It's always about, comes back to how we want to feel, because that feeling creates an energetic vibration, which will attract more of that feeling, right? It will
I
attract the
love that.
people that feel that way, the other experiences that will feel that way. So for me, when I really learned this, just after the pandemic, really. Like, I spent the my marriage broke down in 2018, and I went into like overworking mode. And I had my business, which was, multi-million dollar business, and I took a full-time job because I became so scared of not being able to pay the bills, because I was on my own now, supporting my kids. And I worked like a dog, like so hard in those kind of 2019, 20, 21, those kind of weird pandemic years. What else did we have to do at that time? We were all at home, we weren't allowed to go out, kind of thing, right? So I just like doubled down on work and did stuff. Now, that wasn't the right thing, because I became very unhealthy, quite overweight, and very stressed, right? And I had to take a step back and look at, how do I want to feel, and what are my goals actually, right? And slow down, right? Now, I also made a decision at that time that I wanted to be, and maybe this is partly because of the pandemic, I wanted to be in person with real amazing people, having an incredible impact in the world. And if I followed my own philosophy, I needed to be one of those people, right? I needed to be an amazing person having an incredible impact in the world, because then that's the kind of energy I'd be putting out and it would match, right? I'd be drawn into those situations. So that's what I focused on. And that's what happened. Amazing people just randomly dropped into my world. They offered incredible experiences for me to participate in, right? And I just kind of leaned back and I let it unfold in front of me. I wasn't efforting so much. I wasn't so desperate for this thing to work and to have this, like, oh, I need to have $100,000 so I can, fly to Italy and spend time at the, I don't know, some amazing place, right? Like, no, what if you just focused on showing up with that kind of energy, with the kind of people that you think will be there doing that thing, having that impact, right? What I
I
got,
love that. Yes.
yeah, like I got an invitation to go to is it, Andre Botticelli's I can't remember his name. Amazing opera,
The
the
singer,
singer, the
the
singer,
opera
yeah.
singer. Yes.
Go to his house for a charity dinner in Italy. I was like, what? This is crazy to me, right? But if I think if we shift our focus not on the money, not on the thing, it's the how do we want to feel, and what is the kind of person that embodies that energy and does that kind of stuff and is around those kind of people. It's
I
amazing science, right? Like attracts like.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I wanna talk more about the energetics of money, but we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Mike Zoric, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zoric, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zoric has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network. Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com.
So before the break, Michelle, we were talking about the energetics of money. We were talking about how not allowing money to be to dictate the value that you see in yourself. And I loved your story about the bag, because what it makes me think about is how what I believe you saw in that lady at the airport was that you saw a really confident woman walking through the airport. She just happened to also be carrying a Louis Vuitton bag, and that was sort of the association that you made with it, and you were like, "Oh, if I have the bag, maybe I'll walk around like that." And I think that worked a little bit externally. There was probably like a small dopamine hit with like, I got my bag, I'm excited, like it's a milestone, right? You hit a goal, you get a thing, that's great. I love
Totally.
the reward system, right? And also, at the end of the day, at some point, are you finally like, hey, I've had enough of the Louis Vuitton bag. Like, I'm just going to be confident and walk through the airport, even if I'm schlepping my backpack and that's just what's going on. Right. So it's a
Totally.
being,
Totally.
yeah, it's a state of being versus like a fabricated way of coming up with who you be in the world. So when we talk about embodying the feeling, right, the feeling of confidence, the feeling of success, the feeling of whatever the things that someone wants to feel, happiness, joy, peace, when when you're encouraging someone to work on embodying it, is there a practice, is there a practical measure they can do, is there an exercise that they can do around this to help them get to a point where they can embody confidence if they have just are not someone who's felt very confident for most of their life?
Totally. Like I think, well, I can share from my own personal experience, right? Because it might be different for everybody, but I think well, I'm not gonna say women. I was about to say women, but I think everybody. Growing up, you get bombarded with the stereotypes of what should be, right? The looks, the hair, the body type, the whatever, right? Um, and there's a lot of unloving, probably self talk that goes on, right? And so I remember kind of early on in my personal development journey, somebody had said to me, you just need to love yourself. And I didn't know what that meant. I was like, what does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? And then a couple years later, a friend of mine gave me a book. I think it's called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. Great book, amazing book. I had to read it several times to really get it, right? But that became my thing. I was like, how can I figure out this loving yourself thing? Like, because I don't know if I'm doing it or I'm not doing it, right? And I'm not sure what this feels like. And so the kind of hack around it for me was gratitude. Well, what can I have gratitude for? Like, not just, oh, I'm grateful for having money in the bank or I'm grateful for my car or whatever. Like, I'm grateful that I have arms that work, right? I'm grateful that my feet are supporting my body. I'm grateful that I have all my teeth and I can chew food and enjoy amazing food, whatever, right? I like my hair. I have great hair, I think, right? So like it doesn't have to be a big thing, right? It's just telling yourself through journaling, through meditation, through affirmations, through whatever it is, right? Like I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you, Michelle. I'm grateful that we're doing this thing, right? Called life. And that helped me understand this kind of what I felt was like this weird concept of loving yourself, right? And through that, I became more confident because I started to look after myself. That's when I realized, oh my God, Michelle, you can't work 16 hours a day. Like, this is ridiculous. What are you doing? Right? And then when I tried to, do all the things they tell you to do to relax, the yoga and the meditation and all the stuff, right? My body was like, what are you doing right now? Like, we're not used to this, right? And I didn't know how to relax. So I had to teach myself this is called relaxation, right? And it's okay to sit here and do nothing, have a cup of tea, right? I think we live in a go, go, go getter world where we're hustling and we're grinding and we're doing all these things. And there's a time to go, go, go for sure, right? Especially if you're trying to lift a business off the ground. However, there's almost like there's a price for that. I didn't know there was a price for it, right? And I'm no longer I'm not willing to kind of pay that price. I'm doing it differently now. Um, and so that helped me become more confident. And as I became more confident, I felt better. It was like this cycle, felt self-fulfilling cycle.
Yeah, I totally get that. I went through the same thing with growing a business and for it being crazy and for it being go, 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 go. And I remember getting to the point where I even went home and said to my husband, at the time I was married, and I said to him, "Hey, I'm really feeling like I'm about to walk away from all of this because it's so much. It's been so much, and it's been a couple of years of just being so much. And although we're seeing the fruits of it, it's like a little too much, and too much in a way that even I knew internally that it just wasn't sitting well with me. It wasn't fun anymore. And the moment something for me is no longer fun, I know that I know that I know that it's probably not what I should be doing, because fun is such a natural piece of something that's always part of my life. It's a piece of my value system, and it's one of my drivers more than anything. I want to enjoy what I'm actually doing. I don't want to wait until I retire. I don't want to wait until this. Like, I'm like, no, like, let's learn to have fun in a paper bag right now if that's what we have to do.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and after that, I just remember, like, his own, like, fear and scarcity around it was like, "But you're making such great money. Why would we stop this?" Like, for him, it was like, "Well, the faucet's on. Why would we turn this off?" And I was like, "Because the sink is full right now. Like, I'm the sink is great. Like, we're good." And this will give me even time to think about what a next chapter might look like or what else I might rather be doing, but this is just too much. And literally within a month, I received a breast cancer diagnosis, and I got sued by the Federal Trade Commission, which they froze my bank accounts, like, and they shut down the business anyway. But it was so interesting that all of these things would show up at the same time, when already in my spirit, I already knew, like, hard stop on this, whatever this is, because I'm energetically already even feeling it. And then literally a month later, that all of this would show up, and I'm like, wow, I had a crystal ball that I didn't even know I had. And how interesting to see life unfold this way. And of course, it was hard to go through both things. And at the same time, I can look back and connect those dots and see how, like, everything happened for me. It happened for me in the most beautiful way. And a lot of people are like, wait, what? I'm like, look, those were hard things. Don't get me wrong. And they were a great spot for me to stop and really sit and listen, because that's all I could do. I didn't have a choice. I had to pump the brakes and I had to sit in the shop for a while. Like, we take our car to the shop
Mhm.
when it needs a tune up. My life needed a tune up. And that
Yeah.
pivot was so huge. I think very much like the story that you told for yourself of how things, stacked, and then you had, the it's like the year of 2018. Wow, like, what happened, what went on for you in that
Right.
year? Same for me. My year was 2018. It was the same thing. And being able to just sit and listen and observe and say what's really important, like going back to a value system, that's what made all of the difference for me, as I just had to get really realigned with my own values and then go, okay, now we start again, but we start at this baseline of new values. And one of them is not a hustle. And I think for both of us, we can both say that for a lot of the other, there's many podcasts, there's many trains of thoughts, and it's a very masculine energy to hustle, hustle,
Mhm.
hustle, go, go, go. And if someone's got the energy for it, and if someone is in the spirit of maybe starting a business or getting in, they're in a startup phase, and that's where they feel like they're getting energized to do it, then I wouldn't deter them from it. But also I would say, are you going to keep doing that to a place of burnout? Because that's also what tends to happen with people, or is it from a true place of joy of like, no, like, I'm really excited. I want to get this going and I want to do this. And I think that the understanding the differentiation is really important for people, because there is an energetics that we're bringing to the table when we're deciding whether it's go, 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 or in my world, slow, slow, slow. And that's the part that I for sure, embrace these days of, oh, it's so beautiful to have space in my schedule. It's so beautiful to be able to, sit here today and have this conversation with you and not feel like there's any kind of hustle involved. There's not any kind of, like, This is easy. This is flowy. Like this feels good. This feels
Yeah.
fun. So that's, I think the other piece for the people who don't relate to the sort of militant, overly disciplined, overachieving side of that, go, go, go now, now, now. It's like, oh, okay, that works for you. But for so many of us, and I'd say also so many of us women, because we wear so many hats. We are wearing
Yeah.
oftentimes the parenting hat, and in addition to probably caregiving in one or many ways, whether it's friends or partners or businesses, you name it. So I think that's such a beautiful and valid point, and one that sometimes I wonder, do we learn that? Do we have to go through it to learn it, or can we be a good observer?
Yeah. Well, I think that for myself, it was something that, I came from like a hardworking middle class family, right? And it was like the work ethic kind of thing, right?
Right.
Like, get out there and work your ass off and be a success. I came from an immigrant family that started from nothing kind of thing, right? And so it just was how I operated in my career. And then when I went into business, it was like, well, I guess this is what it takes, right? And I think it takes a lot of courage to do what you did, right? Where you listen to yourself, you listen to your body, your gut, your intuition, and you make a decision, right? And it's kind of like the whole thing of like, if you don't do it, like, you get like the tap on the shoulder from the universe or God or whatever it is for you, and then you get like the punch in the arm, and then soon you get like the 2x4 up the side of the head, right? Like,
Right.
you're going to stop doing this one way or the other, right?
Hmm.
And it's very courageous to stop voluntarily. I have a friend who just did this, right? And she left her career and she had a breast cancer diagnosis and she stopped everything.
Hmm.
Like, and I'm like, oh my God, like it's so courageous. And people have asked me when I'm really stressed, I've got really great friends who are like, is it time to just sell your business, Michelle? Right.
Mm,
And I'm like, oh my God, like everything about me goes, how am I going to pay the bills kind of thing. Right. But I need to let go of that kind of grippingness on it. Right. And
yeah.
so I think it's great to observe other people's process and learn from them and ask questions. Right.
Hmm.
And I think there's a part that you have to kind of go through on your own. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
mhm.
Well, I love that you are in the business of being able to look at people's finances, especially, in their business. I feel like this is one area where in almost, I'm going to say 90% of the businesses that I walk into, I'm always surprised. I don't know why I'm still surprised after 20 plus years, but I'm always surprised
Right.
at how, I look at the bookkeeping and I just go, wow, like there's, a multi-million dollar business here. And they couldn't actually pinpoint for me where some of it is coming from. Like just not having sort of the numbers figured out in a way that's organized. Or one where they're just like, well, we're making money, and I'm like, okay, well, how profitable are you? And they can give me a gist. Like, they're doing something right, but also they don't really know their numbers. And so that part for me is always really fascinating, is to say, where did we go wrong when we don't know where our numbers are and we don't understand that. And of course, there's the bigger piece of that too, which is sort of the paper trail and the accounting that we all need as business owners. And we got to have that buttoned up, because the IRS, that is not, I've never seen anyone go to bat with the IRS and come out of that feeling squeaky clean. Like
Right.
it's a messy ordeal. And being able to have your stuff just done right and done well is a gift. It's a gift. And to have a professional like you who can look through and do some analysis and really help people streamline what's going on, I think is so important. I want to ask you, when you're working with businesses, do you ever get that business owner that's attached to, like, let's say that they're selling, this widget, and so with this widget, they love this widget because it's purple, it's their favorite color, it's amazing, but the widget is actually not making them money, it's costing them money. And then you come over here, they're selling this other thing that they don't really give much mind to, but it's selling like hotcakes. It's actually what's carrying the business. Like, how do we also and I would love to know your own philosophy on this, but do you go back to that person and say, hey, like, FYI, this is your money maker, this is your hobby that's costing your business money, or do you say, look, you love this so much, just leave it there, just leave it in there? Like, what's the happy medium? Because I think sometimes we get really attached to certain widgets in our business or a certain program, because we feel like that's the thing, but sometimes when we look at the numbers, it's actually not the thing.
Totally. Absolutely. I see this all the time. Again, it's that meaning that's attached to this thing. It's the meaning that's attached to the widget, right?
Mm,
It all comes back to the meaning. I swear everything comes back to the meaning. But so it starts with actually having the numbers, right? Like, so often businesses come into my world and they don't have the numbers broken down. They'll be like, oh, we made 3 million in revenue. From what?
right.
Right? I don't care if you're selling the widget and the gidget and the digit, or you're selling, three different kinds of services or whatever. You've got more than one thing you're doing, right? For sure. So having that level of detail in your books is really important, because what we can then do is go, well, what costs are associated to this thing, right? Was it costing you to deliver this, right? And are there efficiencies that could be made? I don't know, maybe, right? But we got to know that to start, right? So get clear on that. Accurate, detailed financial records, really important, right? And then it's a conversation of, how do you want to experience your business, right? So we might see that the widget that's not making any money, they love it. Um, Maybe it costs a lot of money to deliver because there's a lot of cost involved in it or something like that. Like, the margin's not high. I don't know. Is there room to put the price up? Right? Like, it's a conversation, right? About what are the goals for the business? How do you want to experience your business? What's the end game?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's thinking about the end game. Nobody's thinking about the exit strategy. And we should
Mm-hmm.
all be thinking about that, because if you've got a business and you've got the widget that doesn't make a lot of money, and you've got the other thing that does, which has a higher value in your exit strategy if your exit strategy is to sell, right? Maybe your exit strategy is succession, so you're going to pass the business on. Well, I don't know, do you care then, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. But it's it's uncovering what this thing means to them. Why is it so important? Is it a legacy piece, right? I had a client who had this in her business where it was a program, it was like a coaching program. And the just margin wasn't high because she actually didn't coach in it anymore. She had coaches coaching it, and she was paying a lot of money for those people. And there was like, but it was her first ever program she ever created. She loved it. She thought it was awesome. It got her to her first million in revenue, right? And so she had an emotional attachment to it, right? And so when I could show her the numbers, she didn't really care. She was like, yeah, but this is a foundational piece. And I'm like, is it though? Like, you have all these other things, right? Like, is that just what you think, or is that the reality? And I
Right.
invited her to go back to her team and ask them, right? And go back to her clients even and ask them. And what she found out from her team is nobody liked that running that program anymore. It was boring, right? And no one, clients, team, no one saw this as a foundation of her business, just her.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So she
It's so
actually ended up rolling it up into something else, and it was great.
Oh, that's good. That's so good. Yeah, I really, really think that it's so valuable if someone can take the rose colored glasses off or their own biases off and look at something and see it for what it is. And sometimes things are great until they're just not anymore, or until you've outgrown them. And I think then taking that, course aside or that program aside and maybe offering it as a bonus or offering an archive of it, there's so many other things you can also do with it. But I think the feedback from your team and from your customers is so valuable, and people underestimate the value of a really good focus group, especially if you're a product based company, service based company, and you have programs that people are going through or products that people are actually ingesting or putting on their body. This is such a beautiful opportunity to round those people up and actually do a questionnaire, or get them together on the phone and just say, hey, what do you still love about this, or why are you still ordering this, or what else would you love to order with it? And then that helps you launch your next product that can go along with it, or your next service that goes along with it. And because people often get caught up, like you said, by giving a lot of meaning to the first course that they might have put their sweat, blood, and tears into, they forget that there's like an evolution that's possible here and an evolution that can happen, but they fail to see it. And so I think that's, that listening, that feedback is so important, and so often also just one more piece that oftentimes gets overlooked in business. When it comes to your own financial journey, Michelle, like, how did you land on becoming the expert who helps other experts that are in their own fields, but you're an expert in the field of finances? Like, what actually landed you there? Like, how did you get there? I mean, did a calculator tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you and me, we have a future together?
Right? Absolutely not. Oh my God. Um, well, if I go way, way back, coming out of high school, my dad wanted me to go to university, and my guidance counselor was like, you're really good with numbers. You should go into accounting. Right. So that was my way in, kind of thing. And I left university with an accounting degree, or a finance degree. And I never worked in accounting, though. I worked in industry. So my first ever job was operations manager of a tour company based in Indonesia. Then I worked in a architectural firm doing cost analysis. And then I went over to Europe. I worked in media, all to do with numbers, but not accounting, right? I had never, I had an accountant who did my tax return and stuff, right? Um, and then I had kids. I had a great career. I had all my kids in Europe. I had a great career, but I found managing little children with a career really difficult. We moved back to Canada, had a job, burnt out of that job within a year and a half, and left with a pretty good package, and thought, I'm going to create a little store. I don't know why I had that idea. It was like this little thing of, just dropped into my awareness. I was actually at a secondhand bookstore looking at books on like the, personal development kind of shelf. And I looked to the right and I looked out the window, and there was this little shop with a little handwritten for rent sign. And I was like, that would make the cutest little boutique. And so I walked over there, I called a number, and the guy was like, oh, I'll give it to you for $600 a month if you want it. I'm like, done. I'm thinking I can easily make $600 a month off of something, right? I had no experience in entrepreneurship at all. Okay. I was not one of those kids who had a lemonade stand or sold candy bars to everybody on the playground. Like, that was not me, right? I created the store with a dear friend of mine. And I always say it was my 2-year MBA in entrepreneurship, because I learned very fast what it took to be an entrepreneur and the real life handling of money as an entrepreneur. I ended up closing the store. It taught me a lot about sales, and that sales is a relationship game. And if I could build relationships with people, I could sell them stuff. And then I also met lots of other business owners, and I realized that they knew my finance background, and they didn't know their numbers. And so I started helping them, and then that became my current business. And so it's not like I had this goal of being owning an accounting and bookkeeping firm, right? Similar to you, when I started helping people understand their numbers, I realized they didn't have bookkeeping or accounting. And so I hired amazing people to do that, right?
Yeah.
And built a team around that. And it just all unfolded, right? Like it's like it was Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, right? Like only backwards, right?
Only
Like
backwards. Yeah.
it's all connected, I see now, but I didn't know it at the time. And it certainly wasn't my goal,
Yeah.
let's say,
Yeah.
right?
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love how sometimes our career finds us, and just
Totally.
finding like where the gift lies and where just the natural abilities kind of show up and things sort of unravel or unroll and then we look back
Right.
and go, oh, look at that, look at how that showed up. And I like to say there are so many beautiful surprises and delights from the universe if you'll just open your eyes and look around. And so often they can be right in front of us sometimes as well, and we hopefully we're stopping to smell the roses and not moving through it so quickly that we forget to open our eyes and actually see it for what it is. So I love that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah,
cool.
and it's I always think, like, it's such an evolution, right? Like, you don't know how things are gonna evolve, and so I
Mhm.
like to, whether I'm thinking about my own trajectory or I'm working with a client, I just say to them or remind them, "Let's look at this through the eyes of curiosity." We're not saying it has to be this way or that way. It's not a
Right.
black and white situation. Let's just
Right.
be curious and ask questions, right? I
Mhm.
wonder
Yeah.
what would happen if we did this, right? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and even your tidbit about gratitude, I mean, that piece alone, I know that anytime I start to go if I start to backpedal or if I start to get into a funk, it's the first place that I go is I'm like, how can I change my state right now? How can I actually like get out of any kind of like negative thinking or meaning making out of something that's
Mhm.
just a story? And for sure, it's going back to gratitude. I'll say it in the context of relationships because I think this one's really relatable for people. But I remember dating a guy and he actually came to break up with me, and it was he was so kind because he was like, hey, I'm still super attracted to you. He goes, I just know like I want to get married and I want to have kids, and I know that's not on the cards in the cards for you. And I was like, oh wow. And just that moment of like, oh, this is so sad, because he's such a good guy, and also I'm so grateful for the time and the opportunity that I got to spend with him because he's someone who embodied some characteristics of a partner that I would love to have. And so I was like, ooh, thank you that I got to experience it because I know how it feels. And now I can take that feeling with me and know that like, okay, in the future, this is how I want the feeling that I want to have from the other, when this other person shows up in the room. And that was really nice because that was just the gift. That was the gift of it, right? So
Yeah.
so sad we don't get to run off to an island and get married and and not have kids, but at the
Right.
same time, like in life, he gets to go on and get what he wants, I get to go on and get what I want, and yet we got to cross paths in this really beautiful way, and I can have so much gratitude about it. And it's just a different lens and a different way to look at when life shows up and might throw us a disappointment. Is can we also, to speaking of lemonade stands, can we take those lemons that life shows up with and make a little lemonade? So that part is
I
really
love
nice
that.
and really beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
So good.
Well, Michelle, you are. It's so good to connect with you, and it's so good to have you on the show. I am excited about doing an extended version with you over on the YouTube channel. So I just want to let everyone know that there's going to be some additional bonus content for you. Michelle and I are going to rap about we're actually going to rap about relationships because I know you guys love that, and I love to save that content as well as some health and wellness for the YouTube channel. So you can go to the Mad Love Your Life show, which is on YouTube as well, and you'll find that content sitting there waiting for you. And also, I just want to say that if you want to get in touch with our guest today, Michelle is amazing. You can check out all of her information, all of the links, all of the social media. You can get to her. We've given you all kinds of juicy ways to get in touch with her. Just go down into the show notes or pop down into the comment section, and you are going to see a way to get all of the goodness that is Michelle and everything that she is and that she's built. She's super inspiring. Go check out her social media, and I think you will be wowed and you'll be encouraged. And I know that in this day and age, y'all could probably use a lot of that. So just know that she's going to be one of those people that are uplifting and encouraging, and you want her on your team. And with that, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your shares and your likes. And until next time, may abundance always walk beside you. May joy always go before you, and may love always guide you on your path. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. We air live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Bold Brave TV. We hope to see you back next week. For more ways to connect with my guests, content, programs, and retreats, just head over to www.marydee.com and subscribe. That's MARYDEE.com.